Hey guys, welcome back to Matthews Ballistics. I haven't done a review on this rifle yet, but this is a Ruger American Ranch in 5.56. So it's got the short 16-inch threaded barrel, and it also uses AR style magazines. And I've got an Arkin SH4 Gen 2 scope on it, which is what I also have on the Ruger American Predator 6.5. Anyways, I'm going to use this to just get a baseline on make sure the chronograph's working properly, because I'm going to be testing some 338 Lapua here in just a little bit. But I just want to do a quick show and tell and shoot this rifle. I'm going to be shooting some 62 grain PMC out of this, and then we'll shoot some 52 grain Burger open tip match out of it. 3,096. That's still pretty fast for a 62 grain bullet in a 16-inch barrel. It's almost 3,100 feet per second. $31.49. $31.23. And an error on that one. $3,061. $3,072. $2,999. A little bit of a magazine issue. I was having this the last time I shot this rifle, but no big deal. $3,016. $3,009. $3,027. And we're out. So now we know the chronograph's doing good, and the PMC 62 grain rounds are actually pretty consistent for store-bought ammunition. So now I'm going to switch over to the 338 Lapua. We're going to confirm 0 on it, and then we're going to shoot some test loads out of it that I'm using US869 powder, and we're going to see how it goes. Alright, so this is what we're really here for. This is the Savage Model 110, but it's the Elite Precision 338 Lapua. The rounds I'm shooting are 285 grain ELD match. loaded over 91.5 grains of Rotumbo. I haven't chronographed them, but they shoot really good groups so far. So we're going to chronograph them today. And then my new rounds that I'm loading with US869 is I need to test those because Rotumbo is really, really hard to find. And I was able to get, all the US869 that I could, want. It's pretty available still right now, and it's actually not overpriced. Nobody's really gouging it like they are the Rotumbo. So we're going to shoot this, chronograph it, and confirm the zero, and then we're going to test. I've got 20 test rounds to do. 2,938. 2,925. I think I need to come right just a little bit. 2,965. 2,959. 2,939. All right, so I'm gonna go grab that target real quick, and we're gonna move on to our test rounds. All right, so I got my target down there. Was shooting a little bit to the left, so I moved it three clicks right and shot 3 more rounds, and got this one whole 3-round group at the 100 yards. So now we're going on to the test loads using the US869 powder, and it's a slower burning powder than the Rotumbo, and it's also a fine ball powder instead of a stick powder. So it the load data for it, it's going to need more powder than what you normally use in Rotumbo. So my starting load for this is actually 104 grains of powder, and we're going to see how it goes. So the first 5 shots are going to be 104 grains, and then I'm going to go up half a grain to 104.5, and we're going to keep going up until we get the velocity we're looking for. And as long as we're not seeing any signs of pressure, that's the plan. 28.99. 29.43. 28.95. I may not need to use any more powder. 29.26. 30. We're going to take a look at this target. So I'm seeing some things that I kind of expected out of this powder. The velocities are high. It's a little bit slower burning than the Retumbo, and I think that it would actually produce better velocity for the 338 Lapua with less pressure, and that's what it's actually showing me. At 91.5 grams of Retumbo, the primers they're flattened, but they're not over pressured. That's the maximum pressure for them. Running at about 2,940 feet per second or so. This load, being my starting load's already started out at about 2,920-ish, 2,900 foot per second, but the grouping's not very good, and it's not showing any signs of pressure. So I'm going to continue going up. Next load will be 104.5 grams. Yeah, check it out.
Kind of warm today. Yeah, it's gonna be nice. Yes, sir.
Exactly. Johnny, you can go ahead and load up.
He had a 50 cal rifle because you couldn't shoot it out here.
Yeah.
But he had one in dad gun. That you talking about some recoil coming out, concussion coming off of it.
I see no practical use for those.
They're fun. You see what I'm saying? That thing's
25
that
or
thing makes
29.15.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
That gun makes me shot accurately over 2,000 feet. Open mine.
2810.
Is that 3,000?
2832. 2863.
You see him?
Yeah, I gotta sit down, get it steady. Get some nice binoculars.
They're clear. I bought them for watching wildlife at the house.
Did you?
2869. $28.32.
I didn't even know anybody was even still shooting them in 14.
28.27.
Was in 14 you were talking about Navy? I didn't even know. I know they use them on the drill guy teams. You know, I didn't know they were still using them for anything.
Well, it was right after they were bringing all arms out,
Oh,
and they were getting.
All right, this is the last group. We're gonna shoot at 105.5 grains.
now
What?
Safety again.
What'd you say?
The button.
2880.
That's the safe.
Okay.
Have you already chambered?
No. I was just sighting in.
2880.
2853.
Hey guys, we're back at the house. Some crazy things happened today shooting. So here's the deal. This was me trying to change to a different powder shooting 338 Lapua. And because I believe in telling the whole truth and not hiding anything from you guys out there, this is literally like I will share my raw experiences with you with group sizing. And today I've gotten some of the worst groups of any cartridge of any rifle I've ever shot. And it happened, and the only changed variable in the whole equation was I changed powders. So I'm looking into that, doing some research on why I got the results that I got today. So first off, we shot the little 5.56 Ruger American Ranch and got it on target. Made sure the chronograph was reading good and consistently, and then went into shooting the 338 Lapua. So first I confirmed my accuracy on the 338 Lapua, confirmed that it was on 0, and so this is backwards to you guys, I know, but it was shooting a little left. So first shot left, I moved it 1 click, still shooting a little left, moved it 2 more clicks, and then I shot 3 shots through the same hole pretty much. Like, that's the way this rifle is supposed to shoot, and it was amazing, fantastic group there. And, so last weekend when I shot it out to 300 yards, and I got a group under 1.5 inches. Again, those rounds right there. And this was done using 91.5 grains of Retumbo. The OAL on the cartridge was 2.775, which is the maximum I can get to feed in the magazine on the Savage Elite 110 338 Lapua. So 3 shots in that hole, and all it took was a little minor adjustment over to get there. And so I considered that 0, because if I go 1 click back, it's going to shoot to the other side of the circle, right in there. So it split the difference, and if I'm shooting just slightly to the right now, I'm okay with that. But now here comes the weird part. So on the jug of US869 powder, it says here, for 338 Lapua Magnum, the maximum charge, 104.0 grains for a 300 grain Sierra hollow point boat tail. They use normal brass, they use Federal 215M primers, and the OAL on the cartridge, they've got it set at 3.600 inches, and they're getting 2,677 feet per second. Okay? Now, my biggest issue with this published velocity versus my rifle, and this is kind of a huge pain in the butt, is that a lot of these rifles they're testing with are either 24 or 26 inch barrels. I don't know why they are that short, because it seems for that type of cartridge, longer 28, 29, 30 inch barrel would be optimal. So with that being said, the barrel in my rifle is 30 inches long without the muzzle brake. So the velocity that I was showing, and so it was 104 grains for the 300 grain Sierra bullet. So I'm going to a bullet that is 15 grains lighter, the 285 grain ELD match that I've been using. So I decided to start at 104 grains, and I left my bullet seating depth, my OAL, and my cartridge exactly the same as I did with the Retumbo at 2.775. So starting at 104 grains with the 185 grain ELD out of the 30-inch barrel on my Savage, I was averaging really good velocity. The 5-round group, the first one, we got about, which brings up another problem thinking about it, is that it started out saying I'm shooting like about 2,900 feet per second, right? And then I ended up having to move targets out of the way to alleviate some crossfire I was having with, some fellow, other shooters that showed up. They were shooting across, and if I had left my target where it was, they were going to end up hitting it anyways, and then I wouldn't know what I was doing, because they're shooting into my own target, but they're shooting at a shorter distance. They're just shooting across the range there. So I moved my target and then reset up my chronograph and stuff, and moved my chronograph, and all of a sudden my chronograph was reading different. It went from reading like 2,900 down to reading like 2,800 feet per second. So I don't know if my first readings were actually accurate or not. Like I said, the average reading for this group with 91.5 grains of Rotumbo was 2,940 feet per second, which sounds really high, but again, I'm shooting a 30-inch barrel, so it could be that high. And then when I shot later, though, shooting after I moved the chronograph, my velocities dropped a little bit. They dropped about 100 feet per second. They're about 2,840, 2,850, somewhere in there. And shooting the US869, the first couple of 5-round groups I shot out of it, were shown to be about 2,900 feet per second. So I'm going to show you guys what I'm talking about. And this is where it gets crazy. So going from shooting that, and I literally loaded these exactly the same. The only variable, the only thing that changed was the type of powder I was using. Went to this. That's the first group at 104 grains. And it gets worse. This is 104.5 grains. So still, it's shooting slightly right, like expected, because at least that part's consistent, that it is actually slightly, tapering right, because off the bullseye on that paper plate I was shooting slightly right. So 105 grains, not a good group right here. And then 105.5 grains, only 2 rounds even made it on the paper. Missed the whole thing at 100 yards. So I'm sitting here and at this point I am frustrated. I'm looking at my velocities, they're super consistent and everything. Why are these rounds not even hitting the target? That's my biggest question, my biggest concern right now is velocity's good, no signs of pressure at all, and I'm concerned that maybe I'm not up to the right pressure yet. So I'm pretty frustrated in my mind at this point shooting. So I decided to shoot another group with the loads loaded with Rotumbo, and obviously there's nothing wrong with the gun, because using that load went back to being perfectly fine. Of course, this is one of my groups with the little 5.56 at Ruger American. I shot, I don't know, 15 rounds or something, and they all hit really well. But so maybe you guys can answer it for me. Why the huge change, just changing in powder. Velocity's good. Bullets were seated exactly the same. Brass was resized and trimmed exactly the same. I don't know. I'm kind of at a loss for the reason why it's so far off, you know. I did change resizing lubricant, and now that I think about it, that it shouldn't be an issue, but maybe it is, because, you know, I usually use this leash stuff, and it does not degrade powder or anything. You can use it inside and outside the case. But I changed to using this Royal case lube and dye because, well, 338 Lapua cases are tough to resize, and the Lee stuff I can get away with it, but I'm having to put like an excess amount of pressure force on my press that I don't feel comfortable with. So either that case lube and stuff, the little bit that may have gotten inside the brass, affected the powder in that way, which even if it did, even if, like, say, you know, it affected the burn rate of the powder, that really shouldn't affect the group size that much, I wouldn't think. The other thing is, the only other thing I could think of being the biggest issue is that using this slower burning powder, you know, using more of it, obviously, because that's the way it goes. You use a slower burning powder, you end up using a higher charge weight. So changing to that, the one thing that I think that it could be is it is having a different recoil impulse through the rifle, and the barrel harmonics are changed a little, and so I can fix this problem by simply changing my bullet seating depth, like just playing with that a little bit. But at this point, still shooting a group that is like 5 inches or something, or 4 inches, 4 or 5 inches at 100 yards, even if like everything was loaded bad, it should be better than that, you know. Like, it should just be shooting better than that. You know, maybe it shoots a little lower, a little higher or something, but it appears that they're shooting perfectly flat dead on at 100. The only thing is they're just all around it. They're just all over the place, and don't really have an explanation other than possibly barrel harmonics and possibly the bullet lubricant or the powder or case lube that I was using to resize with is different. Pretty much at a loss. Like, I would think that even if it was not a great powder to be using, that the group size would still be under an inch, you know, at least 1 MOA at 100 yards, which would not be good to be shooting long range with or shooting like you know, precision with, but it would be definitely usable to hunt with out to 500-600 yards. I don't know, you guys tell me what you think. Leave some comments down below. Tell me why you think that I'm having this issue. Like, just changing the powder made that much of a difference, you know. And then going back to the bullets I was shooting before, shot perfectly fine. I don't know, you know, it's pretty wild. Anyways, I enjoyed shooting this video, and I enjoyed going out there and shooting, and like I said, I'm always going to tell you the accurate truth on my shooting. I'm not going to hide these poor groups from y'all, because it's an educational learning experience, and if I can't figure it out, maybe one of you guys know what's going on, and maybe you have some information, some valuable input to it. So I'm never gonna say, oh, you know, like, I went out today and my gun shot so good. This one 3-hole, you know, 3-shot group right here that measures, not even measurable because it's so small. That's not how my gun shot today. It shot one really great group, and then it shot 4 terrible ones, and then it shot, went back to that powder with that, same bullet and everything, and it shot another great group. I mean, this here is actually not that great. It's not nearly as tight as that one, but it's still good. Like, that's still a good group. So I don't know. I mean, and this was shot with the barrel being hot. This was after I shot give or take 30 rounds through it. I shot that. So that's with a hot, dirty barrel, and it still shot that good. With the Rotumbo, or the rounds loaded with Rotumbo, everything was loaded exactly the same except for the difference in powder type. So in my mind, I don't think it should have that big of a difference or big of an impact on how the bullets group. I would think that it would more or less impact, change where they group at, changing powder, but I would not think that it would change the actual group size that much. But it changed it a lot. Like, I don't know how to feel about it, because I've got 8 pounds of this powder that I'm kind of worried is not going to be usable. I mean, other than just range fodder, just going to the range and just shooting, but it's not what I want. I want this, that type of consistency, this type of consistency. That's what I want to see every time I go shoot this thing, because it's what it's designed for. It's literally designed to be a really precise, really long range shooting gun, and if it's not shooting that tight at 100 yards, you're not going to be able to expect to hit anything at 1,000 or 1,500 or even 2,000 yards. You're not going to hit your target if it's not shooting at least this good, at 100. So, like I said, leave some comments below. Let me know what you think. Tell me what your theory is. I'm going to continue playing with the powder, because I've read in some forums that some people using it were using upwards of 110 grains, and maybe I'm just 5 grains too light in powder. Maybe upping the charge, getting it more compressed or whatever might line some stuff out. I don't know, but I definitely am going to keep playing with it and try to come up with something usable. Also, the recommended bullet weight for this powder is 300 grains, and that's because it's a super slow burning powder, and with really slow burning powders, or when you're shooting a cartridge and you're shooting a slower burning powder for that cartridge, usually it will call for a heavier bullet, and that will help create the pressure and burn the powder the way it needs to be burned to push the bullet the way it needs to be pushed. So maybe I just need more powder in there. Don't know. So I'm going to keep playing with it. I'm going to keep loading it up, and next weekend we'll try it again. We're just going to go higher in powder until we start seeing signs of overpressuring, which we did not see any today of that. So like I said, leave your thoughts below. Tell me what you think. Any input is greatly appreciated. So hope everybody had a great 4th of July, which is today at the time of shooting this video. Had a great time at the range, and got to meet some cool people, some new people. Even though the range was really quiet, I had a solid hour and a half there, which was just me and my dad, and shooting, and he's spotting, and yeah, good time. So we'll see you guys next time in the next video.